Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Today we'll be discussing about the brain, what is the brain, and what the brain is composed of or made of, and the various components of the brain and their functions. So today we are going to start with the brain. So the brain is a complex organ, and it controls thought, memory, emotion, touch, motor skills, vision, breathing, temperature, hunger, and every process that regulates our body. So together, the brain and spinal cord extends from it up the nervous to make up the nervous system, or the central nervous system, which is also called the CNS. So what is the brain made of? The brain is made of about 60% fat, 40% is a combination of water, protein, carbohydrates, and salt. So the brain itself is not a muscle. So it contains blood vessels and nerves, and these are going to include the neurons and glial cells. Okay, so what is the gray matter and the white matter? So gray and white matter are two different regions of the central nervous system. So in the brain, gray matter refers to the darker outer portion, while the white matter describes the lighter inner section underneath. So while in the spinal cord, the order is reversed. The white matter is on the outside and the gray matter sits within. So gray matter is primarily composed of neurons, soma, which are the round central cell bodies, and white matter is mostly made of axons, which are wrapped in myelin. So the different composition of neuron parts is why the two appear as separate shades on certain scans. So each region serves a different role. Gray matter is primarily responsible for processing and interpreting information, while white matter transmits that information to other parts of the nervous system. So, how does the brain work? So, the brain works by sending and receiving chemical and electrical signals throughout the body. So, different signals are going to control different processes, and the brain interprets each. So we are going to have some, for example, making you feel tired, while others are going to make you feel pain. So some messages may be kept within the brain, while others are relayed through the spine and across the body's vast network of nerves to distant extremities. So to do this, the central nervous system relies on billions of neurons or nerve cells. So we're going to start discussing the different parts of the brain. We have the cerebrum. So the cerebrum is the front part of the brain, and it comprises the gray matter, which is the cerebral cortex, and white matter at its center. So the largest part of the brain, the cerebrum, initiates and coordinates movement and regulates temperature. Other areas of the cerebrum enable speech, judgment, thinking and reasoning, problem solving, emotions, and learning. So, other functions relate to vision, hearing, touch, and other senses. So, we are going to move on to the next, which is the cerebral cortex. So, the cerebral cortex is divided into two halves or hemispheres, and it is covered with ridges and folds. So the two halves join at a large deep sulcus, which runs from the front of the head to the back. So the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, and the left half controls the right side of the body. So the two halves communicate with one another through a large C-shaped structure of white matter and nerve pathways, which are called the corpus callosum. So the corpus callosum is in the center of the cerebrum. We are going to move on to the brainstem. So the brainstem connects the cerebrum with the spinal cord The brainstem is going to include the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla.